Over the last 7 years, Peterman Brothers has worked diligently to capitalize on the need for consumer financing. We vetted 5 nationwide service finance companies looking for a partner that could grow with us and keep up with our demand for top-notch support and an evolving customer offering. GoodLeap has crushed it. Not only does GoodLeap help us help our customers get the services they need, profits of this partnership have been quite substantial to help us grow our business. We have seen an immense drop in our financing fees and as a result are collecting higher margin on each and every job. GoodLeap, the best financing solution for home services and the trades. Hands down. Hey, Chad Peterman here, your host of the Can't Stop the Growth podcast, a show that advances the home services industry and beyond. In this exclusive series, I've joined forces with Camp Digital to bring you powerful learnings that advance you and your business in the realm of all things marketing. Together, we bring content that empowers you to build a positive, healthy workplace for you, your people, and your bottom line. So let me officially pass the mic to Camp Digital for today's episode, chock full of insights that you can take and apply to your growth. Now listen and grow.
At Camp Digital, we know that staying competitive is paramount. Whether you're a seasoned business owner or just starting out, this series provides you with the tools and knowledge to prepare and advance your home service business to thrive in this dynamic landscape.
Each month, you'll hear from Camp Digital leadership and occasional featured guests who share knowledge and insight for real-world success. So grab a seat around the campfire as we illuminate the path forward. Together, let's get into it. Hey there, this is Megan Bedford with Camp Digital, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with CEO and co-founder of Camp Digital, Katie Donovan. She is Google, Bing, Yelp, Amazon, and SEO certified. She is a Google product expert in multiple product lines with her highest ranking in Google Business Profile product line. Today, we'll be talking about KPIs, key performance indicators, and how they relate to your home service business. We'll be focusing on Google Business Profile, paid search, GA4, and organic ranking. Join us today for a great conversation. So today we're going to be digging into key performance indicators and how they relate to the home service industry. Many of you might look at a lot of different key performance indicators as far as how you're tracking your marketing and how you're tracking your website performance. But today we're going to break it down onto what are some of the most important ones. And I'm sitting down here with CEO of Camp Digital, Katie Donovan, and she's going to help us break it down. Hey, Katie.
Hey, Megan. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you today. Let's first talk about your website and Google Analytics. Can you explain some of those key performance indicators that home service companies should be looking at related to their website?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited that we're starting here, Megan, because most people know by now that there was a major shift in even being able to look at KPIs or key performance indicators when it comes to your website with the transition from Google Analytics to Google Analytics 4 or GA4. So just to back up for a second on that, up until July of 2023, the product of choice for measuring your KPIs, website performance, conversions, traffic, channels, all that fun stuff all came through a product called Google Analytics. Google has since retired that product. And actually, as of July of this year, you won't even be able to log in to the old version anymore. So with that shift to Google Analytics 4, GA4, they completely moved the cheese on what they are considering key performance indicators to track. So a quick example of that is you used to have, I think, 8, don't murder me, anyone who knows this one for sure, but there used to be, I think, 8 core channels, default channels that would come in. For example, there was one for organic. With GA4, there is now 3 different default channel groupings just for organic. They moved to 18 default channel groupings. So I bring that up because that's going from 8 to 18 in default channel groupings or how your traffic's coming in, whether it's organic, paid, display, social, video, all those different things. even moving that makes those numbers wildly different and required a whole revamp on how you view key performance indicators on a website. So really kind of, I think there's a fan club of us or a group of us that meets every Wednesday that talks about how much we hate the GA4 conversion for sure. Everyone's welcome.
It's really, I find it very confusing, so, and I think many of you that have logged in and seen this kind of new version of GA, you're confused as well. So how could we break this down where someone could dissect that information and pull out the key things they should be looking for on GA4?
Well, that's a great segue. So in a way, they've also made it easier on us with this GA4 conversion. So one of the big key elements now is engagements. And the way I look at that is if you go to, say, for instance, traffic acquisition inside GA4, I want to see where my traffic's coming from. It's going to give you a series of in a default report of metrics. And let me just count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are dedicated to things around engagements. So Google's got a default metric they're measuring called engagements. And what I always look for, Megan, right or wrong, is if Google's giving 6 of its default measurements to one specific category, engagements, Google is giving us a signal there. They're telling us that's important to Google. If it's important to Google, it should be important to us. So looking at your overall engagement rate, engaged sessions, without having to do any custom work, without having to set up conversions on the site, without having to set up, any kind of in-depth KPIs, the one that Google delivers automatically to us is engagements. So to answer your question directly, and I think we're probably, an hour in already, and I haven't even gotten to it, but it really is one of the big things you should be looking at on your website is your traffic and your engaged sessions, where that traffic's coming from, and engaged sessions in each one of those. And Google's default on engagement, just to read it right from Google, is the number of sessions that lasted longer than 10 seconds or had a conversion event or had 2 or more screens or page views. So they're really saying that customer is engaged with the content in the site.
Now, how about, let's break down traffic. When you compare traffic, do you recommend that people look year over year on their traffic?
Well, and that's part of that challenge with starting out explaining the difference between GA and GA4. They're not apples to apples anymore. And that's really presented a challenge to all of us in the space. Instead, one of the things that has remained relatively consistent is being able to track conversions. So traffic in and of itself, I don't think is necessarily a good thing. For example, we're in the home services space. I'm sitting right now in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Traffic from India does me no good. Traffic from where you're sitting in Colorado does you no good, right? That's one heck of a trip charge between here and Colorado. So really looking at that conversion, traffic's a good indicator, but I don't think it's really a key performance indicator. To me, we always like to look at, are we getting more conversions or less conversions on those channels?
So when you're really looking at Google Analytics, you're wanting people to focus on how their customers are actually interacting with the site. So engagement and conversions.
Yeah, and it's not just me. It's Google, right? Like reading these across the top just on this particular default report, which is traffic acquisition, which is how am I getting traffic to my site? It's sessions, users, views, and then average session duration, bounce rate, engaged sessions, engagement time, engaged sessions, events per sessions, engagement rate, right? So they're giving us the clues of what to look for. So to me, to answer a question again, it's what's my engagement rate and what's my conversions? Now, conversions aren't as natural. You have to set those up in the system, but I've never heard anybody in all my time in the trades and elsewhere, anything in digital marketing, I've never heard anybody ever say to me, wow, Katie, my impressions were off the chart. I'm taking my wife out for dinner tonight. It was such a good views day, right? No, right? It's, am I getting conversions or am I not getting conversions? Am I getting engaged shoppers or not?
Right. And any advice to these listeners on how they would set up conversions if they don't have it set up currently?
Great question. I think it really, first thing you have to look at is what are the primary goals of your site. So for most of our clients, it's going to be a phone call, form filler, chat. And that's really easy to set up inside Google Analytics 4. They've made it pretty simple to do so, going down to your admin and setting up conversions. But some industries might have a shopping cart, right? So there they want to add a cart completion as a conversion. But you really have to look at what are your primary success goals for your business phone call, form filler, chat for most of us. And then if they have a shopping cart, shopping conversions. If you have a newsletter sign up and you want to track that, the newsletter sign up. But what are those primary goals that you want to set up? And then inside Google Analytics, it's a pretty simple process. And what's nice is you can actually click a little test to make sure you got it set up right. And maybe even we should put a tutorial or something together and put that out there for people. But it's pretty easy to find.
Let's move on to paid search, which I think there's a lot of different KPIs to look at in regards to paid search. But let's talk about the ones that you think are most important right now.
This is going to be controversial, I think, because I think everyone's got their own take on this one. But it really kind of depends if you're looking at it holistically or from a marketing perspective, right? As a marketer, I like to look at how many booked or bookable calls I am bringing you. But I realize that that is not the whole story. You really got to get to ROAS, return on ad spend. How many calls did I get? Or I should say opportunities did I get? How many of those opportunities were bookable? How many did I book? What was my cancellation rate? So I could, or to stay positive, what was my run rate on those? Like how many did I actually run? How many were paying customers? And then my total return on ad spend. That's really going to tell you that whole story from soup to nuts. The challenge I think becomes is some of those things blur heavily into operations versus marketing, but it's really going to give you that whole picture. Other metrics, I just call them vanity metrics. My impression share, my search loss to rank, all of those things are important to know, but they aren't the story. I mean, the story really is, am I bringing you calls? Are they bookable calls? Are you booking them? Are you running them? Are you running them for revenue? And then what's my return on ad spend? That really paints a picture.
Absolutely. I think there's so much noise, when customers come in about cost per lead, right? We hear that all the time. Well, what is my cost per lead going to be, or what should it be? And it's running this high right now. So what are your thoughts on cost per lead as using that as your KPI?
Well, it depends on what you define as a lead, right? I think there's a benefit to it, to understanding it. But if I'm getting 100 leads and my cost per lead's $40, don't break your arm, pat yourself on the back if only 20 of those were bookable, right? Or I should have said 50% so I could do the math, because now we're up to 80, right? $80 cost per bookable lead. And if I only was able to book of those bookable, half of those, about $160 cost per book job. And if I run half of those for some unforeseen reason, I'm at, what is that, $320 just to get into a home.
And I think the challenge there is also what goes into that particular KPI when we're looking at bookable rate, is a lot of that has to depend, yes, on the quality of the lead, but then what's happening on the backside of that business with the lead. Are you actually turning that lead into a book job? So the two are really partnered together. But let's say you have a customer and they are running digital marketing and they're really just trying to analyze, is this working? What are the key things that you would ask them to look at?
Oh, I just finished a phone call with someone about this. It was great. This husband and wife team down in Prescott Valley, Arizona. So if they're listening, they'll know I'm talking about them. And she asked such a great question. She said, I don't feel like my ads are working. What's wrong with my ads? And I said, I don't know that it's your ads. It might be your website. There was no CTAs on their website, right? No calls to action on the website. Not picking on you guys if you're listening. We talked about it together. But that's why when you said, what are the KPIs? I listed them all out, right? Because you've got to look at the whole picture to see. Her ads might, and we don't do her ads, so she might be killing it with another provider, but she's not going to know. And she instantly, rightfully so, went to like, my ads are not doing well. This other provider must be terrible. But that other provider wasn't controlling the website. That literally did not even have a phone number on it until you scrolled all the way down to the footer. It's really a holistic thing. And I think that's the challenge we have in marketing is my website. It's my GBP. It's my reviews. It's my how I answer the phone, what happens in the call center. What does my CSR say? Are they being empathetic? Did she have a bad day? Is my CSR chewing gum when all of those things can make your ads performance, or your paid or organic, look terrible. So you've really got to understand that whole journey and look at each component.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think sometimes you look at one component and you're missing the whole fact that your websites, you're paying all this money to get leads to your website, and then nobody's picking up the phone to book a job because your website's not set up for conversions.
Website's not set up for conversions. Your CSRs haven't, I think the CSRs are the most undervalued people on the planet. I setting up a way to incentivize your CSRs, I think, is one of the greatest things you can do for your entire paid. We had a very large PE company come to us last year, Megan, and say to me, "What would you do if I gave you an extra $1 million this year?" Very brash. And I said, "I would tell you to keep it, use it to buy a trainer and have a trainer work in your stores." I said, "You don't need to spend more with me. Leads is not the problem. It's how you handle those leads. If you can," and this was a very large PE group, "if they can increase their closing percentage from the CSRs by 5%, he would have made 10 times that investment back."
So just looking at digital marketing, what are some of the things that you would say you could easily identify that your campaign is not working? Like, what are some of those KPIs that are red flags that say there's an issue here with my campaigns?
I think it starts with being able to see the setup, like logging into the account with your provider and looking to make sure that they're using smart bidding of some kind, right? I mean, no one's smarter than Google. We're not. Like, I joke all the time. I, for one, welcome our overlords when they come, but no one's smarter than Google. And so lean into Google's tools, Google's AI. Google's been using AI since 2014, and they've been using AI aggressively in ads and such since 2019. So lean into that, because it's, we're all talking about AI like it's the newest, greatest thing, but it's been around for a while. So make sure you've got your campaign set up to utilize Google's best practices. I think that's one. Two, you're going to want to look at that conversion rate. Make sure that you're getting conversions to the site, and then look at how many of those are actually converting through that process, becoming booked calls. So those are some pretty simple ones, I think, to look at. But ultimately, it comes down to calls on the board and going backwards from there. If your board is, I had a person call me the other day, and he said, "I haven't gotten a phone call in weeks." And I said, "Wait, are you telling me you literally," this is from another provider, "you literally haven't gotten a call in weeks? Because if you haven't gotten a call in weeks, we should be testing your phone numbers." Like, my joke always is a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, right? So, and he said, no, it's just been really slow. Ultimately, that's the key indicator. Now you just got to swim back upstream to find out what the problem is. So we when I log into an account to look at somebody's work, I'll look for things like, what's their conversion rate? Do they have their areas set up correctly? You'd be shocked at how many times you don't see areas correct. Are their hours set correctly for when they can actually handle calls? It does you no good if you're a small business and you close at 6:30 and there's no one answering the phone. It does you no good to necessarily be advertising at 7 p.m., right? If it's an emergency service that you're going to offer, my water heater just exploded and it's leaking 40 gallons of water. If I get your answering machine, the odds are pretty good I'm not waiting until tomorrow. So look at what your trades are, what your goals are, and what your conversions at, and then swim upstream from there.
And any advice on kind of bringing down that overall cost per lead? If you just see that creeping up, which we already saw in trends in the last episode we did, is the trends are that the cost per version on paid search is going to go up this year in most areas in home services. So any advice to listeners on ways to lower that overall cost per lead?
That's a great question, because so much of that falls between marketing and operations, right? I think getting in there and ensuring that your teams are doing the grooming they should be doing on the account. Another gentleman I absolutely love and adore just made a purchase of a business in Utah. So we're looking at that business for him. And his cost per conversion overall was wild high. And when we dug in there, we said, my gosh, $618 cost per conversion in this one county. That's what was dragging that cost per conversion up. But if we got rid of that county, his cost per conversion came way down, which, well, I less leads. No, we can still expand in his other counties where he's getting those cheaper cost per leads. He wasn't maxed out in those other counties. So we simply removed, with his current provider, we just did this for him. We said, hey, remove that county and then increase that spend in the areas you're getting better conversions by location. It also made his target a lot smaller, so he could really focus in on getting more jobs. So by removing the location that was super expensive, increasing the locations that are less expensive, he got not only more leads, better leads, but he could actually fill in more jobs with the team he had without overrunning his guys all over. So to answer your question, the moral of that is, look at your grooming, your keyword grooming, your location grooming, your campaign grooming. Just, look for those little things. And then also don't be quick, too hasty to make decisions. There might be other things like, I wouldn't be making HVAC decisions in the Midwest right now based on the last 2 months of weather because it's been crazy mild. Yeah. So you want to look at long-term trends and really talk through them.
All right, we're going to switch gears over to organic or SEO. And we've heard, I think there's been a lot of focus on keyword ranking over the years. And do you still feel like that's a really good performance indicator of your SEO on how your keywords are ranking? Or do you think other things matter more?
I'm going to really start some fights with this one, but we had the pleasure of being in a room with the head of Google's AI, the chief scientist of Google AI in December. And he and a couple of other folks that know from Google side were in this room, and they blew my mind. And really what they talked about was the transition that's been occurring since 2019 on Google, tail end of 2019. It was a November 2019 update. About really, it's not keyword anymore, it's key concept. And let me break that down because this makes sense once you break it down. Long time ago, in a long time ago, not that long ago, Google didn't have as much processing power. So it would look at keywords, it'd look at H1s, it would look at H2s, it would look for some key indicators on the site. So let's take the example of Mercury. The H1 might be Mercury is great. So now Google's ranking you for Mercury, but they realized, are we talking about the car, the band, the element? What are we talking about when we talk about Mercury? So it started going further down the page. Oh, it said Mercury always gets me from where I want to go to where I want to be. Oh, well, it's probably not the element. Still could be the planet. There's some weirdos out there. Is it the planet or the car? Then it starts looking at pictures and alt text and everything. So it's really looking at the key concept for the page to determine what it is that page is trying to tell us about. So he was going through this. It was really, really interesting as he was taking us through this whole thing. And I'll change it to home services. I know you do plumbing. I get it. It's in a metadata. It's in the keyword ranking. It's stuffed in there a million times. But what I really want to know is, do you do plumbing? What kind of plumbing? What's the primary things that you say about plumbing? What area you do plumbing in? So I am a plumber. I'm sitting in Chaska, Minnesota, and I love working on water heaters. And we love to repair those water heaters. So it's not keywords as much as it's key concept. Google has data centers now that are able to crunch all of this data and really read that entire concept. The images, the text underlay, content on the page, keywords on the page, really the whole thing. And so it's really moving from keyword to key concept pretty aggressively. And with Gemini, which a lot of people are calling Google 2.0, it's really aggressively going to take a big jump in that.
How would a home service company figure out how they're doing in regards to their own concept?
One, I think, is always be reviewing your page and review it on mobile. Remember everybody, Google went mobile first a long time ago. Make sure you're looking at it on mobile. But always look at the site, make sure you're going through it. A couple of years ago, Google came out with, and I haven't seen it since, but this whole like one page, one concept, right? Make sure that you're not blending concepts on there. Make sure that one page has got that one concept across from you. And then ultimately, again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it comes down to conversions. We are seeing changes in the market. There has been, I'll give an example of the Midwest again. We've had incredibly mild weather. You're just not going to see as much traffic. If equipment's not running, is it breaking, right? We still have repairs. We still have tune-ups. We still have those kind of things, but you're not going to see the installs at the same level that you would if equipment was being aggressively worked on or aggressively utilized. So there's always going to be some of that to try and digest around as well. But are you getting conversions? What's your percentage of conversions for that traffic?
I kind of want to end with giving some key takeaways on if you don't have tracking set up currently on anything, what's your advice on how to set up some tracking pretty easily?
This shouldn't be anyone who's following marketing of any kind. This won't be a shock, but to the rest of us, it will be. Google has been talking about, as the other major search engines have already done, deprecating or getting rid of cookies. Cookies was a major ability to allow Google to track information. So that deprecation has occurred at 1% in January, 50% in March of 2024, and 100% in June of 2024. So as of July 1st of 2024, you will not be able to use cookie tracking. It'll be 100% deprecated. That comes to your point because it makes tracking a little bit more complicated if you're tracking things like form conversions. So making sure you have what's called enhanced conversions for web set up on your forms or on your website, as well as GA4 fully implemented, is going to be the only way you're going to be able to continue to see that, or using some kind of offline tracking, offline integration tool. So it did become a little bit more challenging. In fairness, it does require a little bit of development work on the website. So if you are listening to this, make sure you reach out to your provider and ask them, have they made a plan for EC for web, enhanced conversions for web for your websites, or you're going to lose that tracking. I mean, it's going to be a real challenge, especially in the home services space for the next few months to be able to compare and really chase down your conversions. So long story longer, it is a little bit more challenging to set them up. If you don't have a dynamic number insertion on your website, strongly recommend it. Really, really great tool. And then work with your current website provider to ask about what their plans and their rollout is for enhanced conversions for web.
As far as some other platforms that you recommend, let's say they're partnered with an agency, they're set up in GA4, they're seeing results, they're in, they have a great CRM. Is there anybody, if they want to take it to the next level and look at some in-depth reporting and KPIs related to revenue and how that might relate to a call coming in or a source of a call coming in, is there any platforms that you would recommend?
There's a couple I think that are out there now. I think Searchlight has got a great platform to look at they can pull the data out and, work with attribution. I think some of the challenges with some of the folks that are out there now is their attribution is pretty challenging. But so I think Searchlight's got a really great tool to help with that. Honestly, I believe that most of the primary providers in this space will be rolling out offline conversion integration, which used to be called offline conversion tracking, which is going to show you all of that through the course of the next few months because of the changes Google's making. It's the only way to stay, I think, ahead of what Google is doing. So ideally, you'll be seeing a lot of that coming from the providers as well. I've seen some great reporting from some folks in the market like Rival Digital. Eric Thomas does a great job with a lot of that. Searchlight, I think, does a great job with a lot of that. Obviously, Camp Digital, we've rolled out offline conversion integration and are currently rolling that out to all of our customers to let them know down to the bare minimum cost per bookable call to start to really help with identifying those KPIs and what that comes down to and what that really means to your business financially.
And Katie, can you talk about the Google Business Profile as far as, KPIs we should be looking at that and related to organic search?
So I'm so glad you asked because I could talk about Google Business Profile for hours. I am that nerd, Megan, but I think people underestimate the value of a good, solid Google Business Profile. Your Google business, anytime Google, who in revenue made $86 billion in revenue last quarter, yet they're giving half of a page to something that is free. You got to pay attention, right? So if they give half the page something that's free, let's pay attention to it. Your Google Business Profile changed from Google My Business to Google Business Profile because it does so much more than just that page. It integrates with maps. It integrates with local service ads. It helps with your organics on your website. It helps with what's called search justification. The more time and effort you can put into your Google Business Profile, I promise it'll pay itself off in spades. And it's something we all can do and help with pretty quickly. Getting reviews, adding photos, adding updates, maintaining that page, adding products and posts, any of those kind of things that we can add in Google Q&As, any of those things that we can do help with that search justification, with that Google ranking. It is literally a honey hole. I don't think people spend enough time talking about Google Business Profile. I could do it for hours. I'd love to do it, but the more you can, it's truly an investment that's worth your time and money.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's actually looked at, the performance behind that, but there's actually a performance tab that you can look at all the data related to your Google Business Profile. That's pretty interesting if you haven't done that.
Yeah, and everyone wants to rank in more cities. If you upload photos tagged correctly with the photo, with how you even name the photo, you can help rank for cities. You can help rank for additional services. It's free. My second favorite 4-letter word that starts with F. It is a powerful tool, and it's really the only place you can immediately publish to Google. Like even when we build websites, we push those sites live. Even when we push them, used to be called a Google fetch. Even when we say Google, hey, pay attention, we index the site. They still might not find everything, and it still takes time. when you put an update to Google Business Profile, you're actually like pushing that content relatively immediately, like 10 minutes. There's nothing else that's that powerful out there. So making sure you've got a good Google Business Profile, pay attention to it, do those reviews, do those pictures, and do posts and product updates. It is 1,000% worth your time.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. As always, keep growing out there. I'm thrilled to announce my second book, The Empowerment Project, has hit Amazon and all the bookstores ready for purchase. This book was possible because of the unbelievable team I get to work with every day at Peterman Brothers. I have talked about the importance of empowerment as a key to a company's growth for a long time. Empowerment has been the core to our growth, and we have been able to create something very, very special. I am honored to share our experience and how we have built our people and organization. Grab a copy and let me know what you think.